Kynton Chan here. I'm one of the elders at Stapleton Church, and I am so excited to be able to continue this video devotional series, Preparing for Victory, as we prepare our hearts and our minds for Resurrection Sunday. Today we're going to be in a passage from Isaiah chapter 53, verses 1 through 3. As I was studying and meditating on these verses, it was not difficult at all to see just how appropriate these verses are for our current situation. And the point that I want you to take away from today's devotional is this: Jesus feels your pain. Jesus feels your pain. He walked among us and was hungry and thirsty just as you are. He felt sadness and anger just as you do. And he felt pain and sorrow just as we do. So Jesus feels your pain. So in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 1, the prophet starts by saying, "Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed?" Now, we have the benefit of history, and we can look back now and kind of see that this is almost a little bit like a rhetorical question, because we know now that the answer to this question is virtually nobody. Virtually nobody received this message. But as I was thinking about this particular verse, one thing that struck me is that maybe the message wasn't a message that people just wanted to receive. And so I looked back and tried to figure out, what is this message that was not well received? Well, I think what Isaiah is pointing back to is in chapter 52, verse 7, where the message that's being proclaimed is one of peace and good tidings and salvation. And so I don't think the message was the problem, because this is a message that we all desire to hear. This is a message that we all need to hear. So as we continue in verse 2 and 3, I think that Isaiah is telling us that the reason why this message was not well received is that the messenger was not who we thought he would be. He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. So in verse 2, Isaiah is saying he just was not a very attractive leader. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. And if we're honest with ourselves, don't we tend to listen more carefully to those who are well-dressed, or those who meet our expectations of who a leader, who a messenger should be? And if the messenger doesn't match what we think the messenger should look like, doesn't that sometimes create a barrier between us and the message, that it makes it more difficult to receive that message? And I think that's what Isaiah is pointing to here. He's saying that one of the reasons why the message was not received is the messenger is not who we thought he was going to be. And he continues in verse 3, "He, the servant of the Lord, the messenger, was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem." Think about that. Have you ever been in a situation, have you ever been despised by people so much that they literally hid their faces from you? That is the type of reception that Jesus received. Jesus was a man of suffering. Jesus was a man who was familiar with pain. And though, yes, there were crowds that came to see him, he ended up not being the messenger that people were expecting. And he was a carpenter's son. He was not highly educated. He didn't come from a wealthy or powerful family. And so we know from the New Testament that Jesus' message was not even received in his hometown by those who knew him and loved him most. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. And these are the words that really stuck out to me as I meditated on this passage. It could also be translated that he was a man of sorrow and of sickness. And isn't that what we desire today? Someone who understands the sorrow and the sickness that we are experiencing today. In this day of the coronavirus pandemic, where thousands of people are dying around the world every single day, where our loved ones are suffering and in pain and are isolated from the ones that they love most. Jesus felt that isolation. Jesus felt that pain. Jesus felt that sickness. Jesus feels your pain. And so, as we are preparing for victory this coming Sunday, I want you to meditate on these verses, to know that Jesus feels your pain, that in the midst of whatever you may be experiencing today, whatever you may be experiencing tomorrow, whether it's been a day, whether it's been a month, or whether it's something you have been experiencing for years upon years upon years, Jesus feels your pain, and he wants you to know that he is with you through that pain. It may not end tomorrow. I can't promise that. The Bible does not promise that your pain and suffering will end tomorrow, but it does promise us that we have a Savior. We have a servant in the man, Jesus Christ, who feels your pain.